So now please understand, here is another super pro tip for all of you, right? In the interview, the interviewer does not really look for whether you solve the problem 100% or not is not something he look at. He only asks for the approach in which you wanted to solve it. So what matters the most is the solution or the approach, which matters the most. Is it the approach or the solution which matters the most? The approach matters a lot. So remember the super pro tip, don't worry about your solution. The approach you trying to solve it matters the most. So I'll give an interesting example for you. So assume that you are living in Chennai and I told you, assume I am one of your best friend, okay? Right. Assume I'm one of your best friend. I'm asking for a help. Hey, I need some medicine that need to be picked up from Pondicherry. Pondicherry, if you don't know Pondicherry, it is about 2.5 kilometers or 2.5 hours of drive from here, from Chennai. So which is closely about 100 and odd kilometers from here. So roughly it takes about 2.5 hours on a drive. Okay. Now I come and ask you, hey, can you please help me? I need to go and pick up medicine from Pondicherry. Can you please help me to go and pick up the medicine? Okay. Now tell me if you know how to travel from Chennai to Pondicherry, which route you will take? There are multiple routes you can reach. Which route you will take? Okay, somebody said you will take the ECR route, which may be one of the route which is very scenic. Somebody said OMR Padur, okay. Okay, somebody said Tamaram, Dinivanam, Pondicherry route. Okay, there is another route which were take. Somebody said, okay, look at the shortest route, what Google suggests. I trust in Google, I'll go with Google, correct? Somebody also asked, what transport should I do, right? Okay, good. But here is the problem. What the best companies look at you is, right, whether should you travel by car. You can also call, if it is so emergency, but a super emergency, what you will drive? Assume that money is not a constraint. No problem with the money. Then what you can do? There is no flight available, but you can certainly take a helicopter and land. Correct? Is that possible? Right? Money is not a constraint. If I say money is not a constraint, time is most crucial. Emergency. You have to travel. Then what you'll do? You will take a helicopter. Do you all agree? But interestingly, most of the interviewer says that's not the best solution. Do you want to know why? How many of you want to know why? Why helicopter is not a best solution still? You said it is an emergency, you have to go to Pondicherry, pick the medicine, come back. How many of you want to know why still helicopter is not the best solution? Anybody? Okay. Brilliant. Many of you don't want to know why it is, correct? Assume helicopter is available, right? It is still expensive. I said money is not a problem. Time is a constant. You have to bring it back in 1 hour, right? If they have to do it in 1 hour, by car, it is not practically possible, correct? The only option is going by helicopter. Do you all agree? Yes or yes, no or no? Okay, brilliant. So which means we need to find an alternate solution. Now here is what I would strongly recommend. Right? Strongly recommend. Yes, helicopter is one of the best solution. You don't have a choice. But can you ask me better question, Babu, what medicine are you going to buy? I said, I told you a medicine which is available locally, pretty much nearby your home or maybe in the next street. Would you still travel? Yes or yes, no or no. Would you still travel? Now, what is the mistake? What is the mistake you all did? I said go to Pondicherry. You never asked, okay, is there an alternate option? Why should I have to go? Is there a better option? You never asked. You just followed me, right? You said you are in emergency. Don't ask any question. Is that what it is? Fariga was better too. Why should I go and pick and come? Can I send somebody from Pondicherry to buy it? Not a bad solution. Is that right? I don't have to go to Pondicherry. Can I ask someone from Pondicherry to come to Chennai? so that I can cut down the time. Make sense? Yes, yes or yes, no or no. Or worst case, can I ask somebody to keep coming towards Pondicherry? I'll go all the way from Chennai, meet at a common point, come back. Is it better? So you have efficient approach. But the best approach is if first find out if there is a shortcut to solve it. Okay, there can be something available very much locally. There can be a built-in method, right? You are looking for some kind of diabetic medicine, or maybe what is the medicine for COVID? For when the oxygen level went down, a lot of people were fighting for these kind of remdesivir. I don't remember this. Yes, so it was very expensive. People were not finding it. Maybe somebody is able to give it to you locally, correct, for a higher rate card. Rather than you are flying all the way, it may be sensible to look at it locally. Is it making sense to all of you? So what is the learning super tip here? There is always alternate solution to every problem. Keep your eyes and your thoughts open. Don't close it. Whenever, if you jump to solve the problem, you are always closed. Whenever you are thinking, there is a lot of options keep coming at you. Is that good enough? Brilliant. Yeah. Now I want to give you a tip also. There is an algorithm called two-pointer approach. There is an algorithm called two-pointer approach. This is a very interesting, right? Assume that you are traveling towards Pondicherry. You are the guy who is traveling towards Pondicherry. And somebody is coming all the way from Pondicherry to Chennai towards you. Right? And this is what he is. So you have somebody traveling from Chennai to Pondicherry, somebody coming from Pondicherry to Chennai, and there is a meeting point between both of them. So now, instead of one person going and coming back, expensive, correct? 2.5 hours one way, 2.5 hours other way, 5 hours. So that is a very expensive solution. Rather, one of your friend can come and you meet at the point and then travel back. You are saving half of the time. Do you all agree with that? You save half of the time. Do you all agree with that? So now you can think of solving problems using such techniques. This technique is called two-pointer. This technique is called two-pointer. What is the two-pointer is all about? 1 point traveling towards the right, 1 point traveling towards the left. When both meets, you are doing the work done. That's called two-point. Right? Assume this is a good technique to look at it. So whenever you start solving it, there is a good approach is always available. So start looking at one approach and try to figure out at least 2 and 3 approaches. So I would personally prefer, if you want to differentiate rest of the crowd in the interview, then better you have 2 to 3 different techniques. So once you know 2 to 3 different techniques, then you are super good. What I'm going to do end of today is I'm going to share you 17 plus 1, maybe 18 solved problems, Java problems with 2 or 3 techniques. Is that a good one? Is that good for you? Okay, but you will all promise me one thing. You will not memorize these solutions. You will make an attempt to try understanding these solutions and implement it before you look at the interview. Is that making sense to all of you? Yes? Is that clear? Because memorizing this never help you. Okay, brilliant. So always there is another interesting information I want to tell you so that you can understand why, Babu, we should solve it in different techniques. There is a concept called time and space complexity. Time and space complexity. Whenever you are solving a problem, there is a time involved, space involved. Okay, time is nothing but the CPU in your laptop or your desktop or the server may consume a CPU, which is time. Space is the memory which is consumed by your system when it is trying to solve this problem. There can be a CPU issue or a memory issue. So we should optimize the code for both, right? So as a tester, automation engineer, you don't want to write ugly code. You wanted to write an optimized code. That is why people are interested on time and space complexity. You don't have to learn so much, but I'm going to give a tip so that you understand the basics. Okay, how many of you are here computer science graduate? Type me if you are a computer science graduate. Okay. All the computer science graduates should know this because it is there in your computer science engineering, time and space complexity. If it is yes, type yes, yes, yes. Okay. And all the people who are non-computer science graduate like me, right? I'm an electrical engineer, but I don't know what is electrical engineering now. But at least I learned it for 4 years, which I believe it is not very, very useful other than building a lot of friends and networks with me. How many of you like me? The engineering degree 4 years was not great. Learning was absolutely not useful. But I made a lot of friends. That's the only benefit I had in engineering. How many of you like me? How many of you like me? Right. I'm sure a lot of us, right? We only believed engineering would help me to make so much greatness in life, but it never other than best friends. Okay, all right. Now I'm going to give a tip for people who are maybe non-engineering graduate or people who are not from computer science engineering wanted to understand what is time and space complexity. I'm going to give you an interesting input. Are we guys ready? Are we guys ready? For example, I'll start with a simple example, right? I'm going to write some code, something like this, right? So I'm going to write a code, something like this. Now, for example, I have an integer array. Let's say I have an integer array, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, something like this. I have an integer array. I need to loop through the integer array. So what loop we generally use? For loop, correct? For loop. Okay, are you all comfortable with the for loop? Yes. What does the for loop does? It iterates towards every single element inside the array, right? So if I go and print these ones, this out, if I show data of I, then what is going to happen in this case is it is going to actually iterate every element inside the array. So what is the size of the array? What is the size of the array? What is the size of the array? 5 elements. Exactly. It is 5 elements. So this loop will run for how many iterations? This loop will run for how many iterations? Everybody should participate. Come on. No lag. Don't lag. Be with me. Okay, how many iterations? 4 or 5? Somebody said 4. No, it will be running 5 times, correct? Because it should start from 0 to 4. So 5 times it should run, correct? So I'll run in debug mode. I put a breakpoint. Let me go and make sure I start this with run this, right? So call this run this, right? So when I going to run this in debug mode, okay, it's going to run one by one, correct? So let me go and see it. It's going to start with the first one first. So it's going to start with I is 0 first. You see I is starting from 0. Then it goes to the I value of 1. The first element got printed. The second I is from 1. Then it's going to go to second, third, and then fourth, and finally fifth. So which means how many times the for loop is iterating? For loop is iterating 5 times. How many times we have data? So which means here if I say time complexity is O of 5 because 5 times. What is the 5 here? What is the 5 here? 5 is number of times it ran. So which means tomorrow if I add 11, how many times this will be? How many times this will be? It will become 6. 11 or 6? 6. If I add 13 tomorrow, what will the number? It will become 7. So which means it is n times. So if I have n data, the time it will take is to iterate every element one by one. So finally it will take me n iteration because n is the size of the array. N is the size of the array. Okay, is that clear? Are we good? Okay, Akila. Is the size of the array. Now what is the space complexity? Space complexity is the additional memory I'm using. Okay, additional memory I'm using. I'm using the same data. I'm not creating anything else. I'm using the same data, which means at no memory. So it is called constant O of 1. It will use only the default memory, no additional memory. The data is given to me as an input. I don't use any other additional memory. So hence O of 1. So smaller or capital. Generally people say big O. So you should use big O. It's called big O notation. So time and space complex. Okay, let me give another example. Let's see how many of you understood this. Okay, let's say I have a string. Okay, and okay, char array of I. Now let me run this one, get this right, and you all tell me what is the current approach. By the way, these are all called annotation. You will be learning in the week number 5. So don't worry about it. Okay. So now if you see, I got every character printed. So now tell me what is the time complexity? What is the time complexity? It is nothing but O of n. It means O of n because n number of characters, O of n. What is the space complexity? What is the space complexity? Does it take additional memory? Yes. Does it create additional memory? Yes or no? It created additional memory because you have initially kept it in a string, then it moved to character array. That will be depends on the size of it. So hence it is size of the character. So hence the memory will be O of n2 because this size of the character array depends on the size of the string. Is that true? Depends on the length of the string. If I had a bigger string, then character array also will grow accordingly. Hence the space complexity is O of n. Depends on how many characters we have. So depends on the input, this will grow. Hence, the time complexity is also O of n and space complexity is also O of n. Okay, is that all clear for all of you? Yes? Understood? Understood? Yes? So which means, please remember one thing. You should be remembering which is better solution. Whichever takes lesser O of complexity is the best solution. Okay, now let's go to yesterday problem and start solving it. Yesterday we were trying to look at input string Amazon Development Center. We are expecting output to be printing NETOM, right? That was we were expecting it to happen, right? And then we wanted to ensure that we get the solution correctly. Now the question is, I wanted to know how to solve it. I asked myself, do I know how different approach? I said, I know different approach. One is brute force, another is using hashing algorithm, other one is using a map. So these are all different techniques, which you will be learning in the upcoming week as I told you. So don't panic, right? So you'll be fine with these. Now the question is, you always start writing pseudocode. What is a pseudocode? Something like this. Traverse through every element of the array. Check if the same element exists. If it exists, print as duplicate. This is what called pseudocode. What is a pseudocode? Writing in a simple English is called pseudocode, not in Java programming. Is it Java programming here? Is it Java programming here? Yes or no? No, absolutely not a Java programming. Is it something you all can understand? Is that something you can all understand? Yes. Is it simple enough to understand? That is what called pseudocode. What is pseudocode? A logic to solve the problem and a simple English which does not involve any programming language is called a pseudocode. Because this will help me to solve the problem faster. Right? If you don't write down this, right? Now remember this, right? Remember this. So assume that you are cooking some new dish at home, right? So what do you like to do? What do you like to do? Where do you go and look for? Assume that one of your best friend or somebody came to your home and you wanted to do a good different dish at home, completely new dish. So where do you go and watch, or where do you go and learn? Maybe YouTube? Brilliant. Go to YouTube and start doing it. Is that a good approach? Yes, yes or yes, no or no. Quick answers. Okay, I decided to cook. I go to YouTube and start. So now I start YouTube and start the YouTube, went on to put the stove and started, put the hot water into it and started cooking. All of a sudden, listen carefully, all of a sudden your internet broke and you're cooking middle of the process. You are 15 minutes into the process of cooking and interestingly your internet broke, your YouTube is not streaming. What will you do? What will you do? Assume mobile data also not working. What will you do? Right. Is that a good approach? Is that a good approach now? You're gone. You're done. What would have been a better approach in that case? What would have been? Okay, don't go to YouTube. Go to always, okay, call to your parent and ask. It's a new dish. Your parent doesn't know. Correct? You experiment. What would be a better technique in that case? Exactly. As someone said, better watch your YouTube completely before you start even cooking, isn't it? Better you watch it, write notes and make sure you have the clear tip how to solve it, and don't go by just watching it instantly. Better understand the process. Once you understood the entire process, how to solve it, and then you break it into smaller steps, how do we do it, and then prepare everything, keep it ready, and then use YouTube just to solve the problem. Is that a good idea? Is that a good idea? And even if the internet broke, will you be able to solve it still? Yes or yes, no or no? Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So now it becomes so easy. So what is the recommendation? Never ever jump to solve. If somebody tomorrow tells you, hey, please code, don't jump into solving problem. Is that understandable to all of you? Yes. You have so many steps to do ensuring you getting ready to cook. Okay. Now, after writing the pseudocode, ask the interviewer, should I write in Eclipse or should I write in a Notepad? Okay. So ask your interviewer, should I write in a Notepad or should I write in the Eclipse? Assume that you are not very comfortable. Assume that you are not very comfortable. Then what you can do is, you better do it in Eclipse. But if you are very comfortable in syntaxes, you know how to solve this problem for sure, then use the Notepad. Some interviewers ask you to write in a Notepad because they want to know how comfortable you are with the coding logic. Is that making sense to all of you? But many of the interviewers are okay with you using Eclipse as well. So hence, you can start writing the code. You can absolutely start writing the code. And here is the pro tip, super tip. How many of you ready for the super tip number 9? Additional super bonus tip number 9. I don't see like a lot of energy like yesterday. Yesterday, the people were very active. Very, very active. Today, you guys seems to be lagging. Okay. So what is that we are intending to do? Super pro tip number 9. So whenever you write code, don't keep quiet. Keep, like, if you remember in your school days when you're doing math, when you're doing school math, my younger son is actually in second standard, right? So we also tell, because my mother is a school teacher, still she continued to help him, right? My mother continued to tell him that whenever you are solving a problem, math problem, keep talking, keep telling what you're doing, right? Do you all remember that at school days? People say, whenever you are adding sum, keep telling 2 plus 3 plus 2 is 7, and then keep doing it. Do you remember those techniques? So now, when you code in the interview, keep telling what you are doing. Keep telling what you're doing. Don't do it mechanically. At least the interviewer knows that you are doing something great. And people are, again, I told you, people don't bother about the solution. People bother about what? They are super worried about what? The approach, not the solution. Right? So with that said, remember the fact, whenever you code, don't panic, keep talking, keep telling, hey, I'm currently going to open a string and then going to convert into a character array, and then converting into a character array using an inbuilt method. Just keep checking. Are you okay with this? Are you comfortable? Should I explain this something? You do it. Okay, don't become so quiet and keep typing, right? Please understand, it's absolutely interesting technique, because it is psychologically helps you to solve it faster. And you remember, whenever you need help, you can ask for a hint, because the interviewer also knows what you're doing, so he can be helpful. Is that making sense? Okay, once you are good by solving the problem, then test against different test data. Test against different test data, right? And that is when you are giving a confidence to the interviewer. For example, last week, as I told you, I was attending the interview with the engineering manager round for Swiggy, and they were asking me to code. And when I was doing the code in the third round of the interviewer was not comfortable with the solution that I did. The interviewer said, I'll give you a test data, confirm if it is working to me. Okay. Then I went on to take his test data and solve it and tell him this is an approach using this technique, and he was convinced. So people don't trust your technique sometimes, because you may be better than the interviewer at times. So hence you need to take ensuring, okay, are you comfortable? Do I have to test with your different data? Please tell me what test data I should test. Okay. And that's it, right? So then finally, if it fails, debug them to solve it. It's a very important technique. A lot of people don't do that. Please always learn how to debug them. Don't try to do without debugging. So it's always, whenever something fails, make sure, take line by line, debug it and see what went wrong. Okay, that closes the 10 steps. But I'm going to take an example and show you in the 15 minutes how to solve it in a brute force, how to improvise with a different technique. Is that okay for all of you? Okay. Okay, let's start with now you'll be a little interested. Sometimes your approach may fail at times, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and use the same thing. I'll go to delete all this stuff. And I have a 3 test data right now. So I'm going to solve the problem as I told you. Here is my problem. This is a given string. So I'm going to take the string in my test data. Example 1, string str equal to 2. And this is Amazon Development Center. So I need to print all the right duplicate characters only once, not multiple times. That's a problem state. So I'm not going to take a edge case. As I told you, I can have an edge case also, something I told you, something like this, all yes, right? This can be a one scenario for you. And this can be another scenario, str equal to empty, right? So you can do that, right? These can be solution. Now I have to write different solution, but I'm going to start with a brute force approach. So I have a brute force approach, which I have already written, right? So you all know that. So I'm just going to copy paste this and put it right here. This is my technique, right? So let's go, and so this is my step number 1, step number 2, and step number 3, right? So these are all my steps to solve it. Sorry guys, good with the steps? Anybody need help on the step? Are we good with this? Yes. Okay, so I went on to solve all of these. So let me go back and look at, okay, do I understand the problem? Yes, I got all the test data. Yes. And then do I know how to solve it? Yes, at least I know how to solve it in brute force. Do I need a hint? At this moment, I don't need a hint. So I'm good. Do I know multiple solution? Yes, I know, but I'll start with the brute force. So do I know which is the best solution? I know the best solution may be math, but I'm going to start with the brute force because that is the starting point I want to solve. Did I write a pseudocode? Yes, I did write a pseudocode. Then implement them with the code, right? And implement them in the code editor. That's what I'm doing right now. So I started to write a simple string with an example and then pseudocode. I'm going to write a method right now. So public void find duplicate. Look at the method name also. It comes by default. So you don't write a method name like ABC. And what is the input? You should take the string as an input. So go and take string str. So now first what you have to do is you have to traverse through each element of the array, which is going to convert into a character array. How to convert into a character array? Str dot to char array. That's going to be the character array. So you got all character here. Something like this, all the characters. Right, so I have to iterate to every character and see it. Either you can use for iterator or for each, depends on how comfortable you are. So I'll start with using for iterator, right? You can also use for each. Now, first thing you have to remember is I need to iterate to every character twice. Why I have to iterate twice? Because I have to start from the first character to the next character, which means J should be starting from I plus 1. Because I need to compare, as I told you here. So if I take the string, let's say I take the string something like this. Remember, I'm going to take the string here like this, right? Amazon. I take A first and compare with M, A, Z, O, N, and white space and so on. So to compare it, I take from the starting from 0 in index, and the comparing character should be starting from the next character, not the same character, the next character. Okay, if both are same, right, what is that? Character of I double equal to chars of J. If both are same, then it is called duplicate. So I'm just going to print duplicate, right? I'm going to just start with duplicate. But that is going to be a problem. I'm going to teach you what is it a little later, right? So I'm going to teach you what it is later, right? So we'll talk about, I'm going to have a duplicate 1 and just type chars of I is a duplicate. Brilliant. Let's go and see if this is going to work. So I'm going to call this one, right? Call this one with this method. These are all called JUnit test cases. You will be learning test engine test cases in week number 5. Don't worry about it. I'm just calling the method. You all know how to call a method. I'm just calling a non-static method directly in the same class, right? So I'm going to run in debug mode. I'm just going to put a breakpoint and show you how does it work. I'm going to run in a JUnit test. Take a look. My input string here is Amazon Development Center. This is my input string. And now let me go to the next step. When I go to the next step, if you see the characters, each character is split right here into a character array. Starting from the index called 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, it went on to pick each character right here. You got the entire character right here as an array. So I'm going to take the first character and along with the next character, let me go to the next step by going to the next step called step over. it goes to the next one. Now j is going to be I plus 1. I is basically 0. The j is going to be 1. Now I'm going to compare again the first two characters. The chars of I select this, right click, and you can add to your watch. You can add to your watch. So when you add to the watch, you can see the chars of I is A. Whereas chars of j, let me go and see chars of j. K is going to be the next character, which is going to be M. So I'm going to add to the watch. So now if I add to the watch, chars of I is A, chars of j is M. So I'm comparing A and M. Will it be same or not same? Will it be same or not same? No, it is not same. So hence this line will not go, it goes to the next value. So F6 again. Okay, now it goes to the next value. Now the next value, capital A is compared to lowercase a. Capital A is compared to lowercase a. And then let's go and run again. It is not same. It goes to the next one. A to Z. No, it's not same. A to O, not same. A to N, not same. A to N, A to white spaces, A to D. It keeps running for every single character in the same string. Is it making sense to all of you? Yes? Yes? So it compared the entire string. So the center is on right now, CNTR. So the entire iteration is going to be ending right now. It is going to pick the next character right now. What is the next character it's supposed to pick? From A, it is going to change right now to the next character, M. It's going to compare M with the rest of the character. What is the rest of the character? M is going to be compared with the rest of the character. M with the A. M with the Z. M with the O. M with the N. M with the D. It keeps going on. So it's going to reach somewhere, the M is going to come. So it's going to compare M with the M shortly. Now we got both M. The I is also M, J is also M. Both are same. Now we are going to go to the if condition. It's going to print you duplicate. But here is what I didn't write one of the logic here. Let's see. If it is still M, it is continuing to go to the next character right now. Now technically what should have happened right now? It should have broke the loop, right? So I should, because I found the duplicate, there is no point in continuing. Said break. Just don't do it. Break. So let me go and run this code right now for you instead of running in debug mode. I believe all of you understood the debug mode. Let me go and run this code. When I run this entire code, you see you got duplicate M-O-N, white space. There are multiple E's, right? But we did not care about it. We did not care about it. We did not care about it. But it printed all the different ones. But still the problem is not solved. I shouldn't be printing multiple white spaces or multiple E character for sure. There are a lot of E's, 4 E's, because all of them are duplicate. There are multiple N duplicate. But I shouldn't have printed all that. Correct? Is that true? Is that true? So how do we do that? How do we do that? So there is an approach you will be learning this week. You'll be learning this week. You can use either the list or the set. You'll be learning this week a list or a set. Okay? You'll be learning this week. So I'll tell you a simple approach. Then you can all improve it later. So I'm going to have a list. So you'll be learning generic and all. Don't worry about it right now. So I'm going to create a list called the new array list. So you may not know this at this moment, but don't worry at all. As I continue to say it, don't worry at all. So I'm going to import the list from java.util, and we are good. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to go and find out if the list contains, the character I'm looking for. If the list contains the character I'm looking for. If it is already there, I should not really care. Okay, if it is already there, I should not really add that to the duplicates. If it is not there, not, negate. If it is not in the list, then I should print it and add to the list. I should add to the list. Chars of I should add to the list. So what I'm going to do is, whenever the duplicates are going to come, so I'm going to first time when it is not, it is a unique duplicate, I add to the list and print as duplicate. Okay, is that clear? If it is already there, I would really break. So which means I don't even have to write the break here. I can just break it right here. Even I think makes sense, right? Here we can break the add and then break. Okay, brilliant. Would make sense. Now let's go and run this now. Run. Now we got only the non-duplicate ones alone. Is it making sense to all of you? We got MON white space ET. Now if you wanted to print in the same line, what you can do is you can just print, instead of print ln, just do print. And this is what the interviewer asked you to do. Now go and run this. When you go and run this solution, now you got everything in a single line. MON white space ET. So here I think we did not write it in the same order. I think MON ET is right here, right? MON ET is right here. So we got the same solution. Only thing is white space, we did not add it in the result. So I should add, because there was two white spaces, isn't it? There's one here. So I have to add the white space too. That's exactly it is. So which means we solved the problem. Brilliant. Clap for yourself. I think you got the solution right now. We also know how to improve the code. Yes? Is that clear for all of you? Was that true? Yes? Did you all understand how to solve it? We had an inner loop. We had an outer loop. Then we were able to compare it. We solved the problem. We actually did it. White spaces cannot be trimmed if it is in between. Correct? If it is in between, you cannot trim it. Okay, now let's talk about, is it a good solution? I've got 4 minutes. I'm going to solve it in different techniques too, right? So now you have to ask, is it a good technique? Yeah, it is good technique, but it's expensive because you have to do time complexity O of n one time and O of n another time, which is n into n. What is n into n in mathematics called? Time complexity. What is mathematics says n into n? It is O of n square, right? O of n square. Correct? So you get O of n square, n into n, which is very expensive, isn't it? For example, if it is 10 data, then 100. What if it is 100 data, then 10,000? If you give you 10,000 data, it will become like more than 1 million. Is that right? So which is very, very expensive, highly expensive. So hence people say this is not a best technique. What about the space complexity? The space complexity is we are taking the size of the one character array, the entire exactly how many string character length, so many size of the character array. Also we are creating an array list, depends on the duplicates, which is going to be like O of n plus m. What is m? M is number of duplicates. N is number of character, m is number of duplicates. It may be a little confusing, don't worry about it, right? You don't have to really know to this level at all. Interviewer never knows for a kind of, if you go to Capgemini, Hexaware, they don't know what is time and space complex, don't worry about it. But if you are attempting, you should, if you are looking for a bigger organization, better you know it too. Okay. Anyways, we understood this. So I'm going to quickly solve it a better technique so that you all understand it. And in this week, right, this week, our mentors will teach you how to solve this as well. So I'm going to quickly do it, right? Right. Let's say what do you want to do? Dupes by something called set. So I'm going to use a set. So just look at the approach alone. I'm going to be a little fast considering time challenges. I'm going to convert to a 2-character array, control to L. I'm going to convert into a set of character, and then write dupes equal to new and set set, right, of character, right, and then, so you will be learning list and set this week. So I'm giving a heads up. So don't panic. Actually set do not retain the duplicates. List can have the duplicates. You'll be learning all that this week. Okay, so I'm going to do a for iterator or for each, whatever you want to do, and then I'm going to go and add to the set, right? If dupes dot add and char array of I, right, and if it is already added, if it is already added, if add is successful, which is boolean, which is true, which is nothing but if you can add successfully, this is what meaning equal to true. You don't need this line for efficient coding. You don't need this line. This means itself this is successful, boolean true. If you could add it successfully, then which means this is not a duplicate. If you cannot add them successfully because it is already having the same character inside the set, then that means it's a duplicate. So let's see the duplicates first. So I will say duplicate, just print the char array of I. So now let's go and just do this run, right? Do by set. Let me go and call this code right here. Instead of this code, let me comment this code and call this code do by set. Let me run the code right now, and you would be seeing the same solution, duplicate values coming again. So you see here E, O, M, E, N again, and you're getting duplicates again. So which means there are a lot of duplicates. 4 times E is coming, and then N is coming 2 times. All these are a problem, which we know already. So same like last time what we did, we can use list or we can also use set. We can say another set called unique, right? And if it is not already there, it is unique. So what we have to do in this case is every time you have a duplicate, you add those duplicates into another one, right? So in this case, what we can do is if it is already printed, you keep adding them to the unique, right? So what you have to do is if it is not in the duplicate, right, which means the duplicates also need to be uniquely done. So I'm going to go and say unique dot add the character. So I'm going to add the character right here, right? And if this particular character is right there, right, if it is there, then go ahead and print it, right? If it is unique, then print it. So I'm going to go run this again, and which should solve the problem right now. If you want in a single line, as we did last time, just do this. And now only thing is I didn't do 2 for loops, I did it with a single for loop. You may not understand this better, but I think the solution is correct. You all saw that every time it came with a single thing. So you're all super good, you solved it. The good thing about here is you did not use 2 for loop. So what is the time complexity right now? What is the time complexity? What is the time complexity that we are talking about? O of n, not n square. What is the space complexity? The space complexity is going to be O of n plus n maximum, because duplicate and non-duplicate maximum, it will be O of 2n, not n square. It will be O of 2 times n, which is still not bad. This is very expensive. This is still not bad. So the next solution may be using the map. So I'm not going to, with the time constraint, I'm not going to solve that problem using the map right now, but you can take it as a home assignment and go ahead and solve it. But I wanted to solve it quickly. Is it working also for these kind of solutions? Is it working for these ones, or for the empty character? I want to check that. Let me go and run this now. The code is going to run 3 times. So go and run it. The first time it came up, second time, please understand it should have printed with the same, but unfortunately what we can do is we can do right here once again. Because interestingly, if you watch it very carefully here in the console, now the A is also printed in the same line. So what I'm going to do is, after the solution is done, I'm going to just print a new white spaces. So which will give you a very clear picture Now this would come in the first line and A will come in the second line. This is second one. Third one, it is in white space alone, so it's not coming with anything. But technically what I should have done here is I should have added a condition here. If string right dot equals empty, or I can also trim the string just to ensure if there is a white space, then I can go ahead and throw, which you will be learning in the upcoming classes, throw new runtime exception. You can tell the caller, okay, this is bad data. So which means if somebody is sending you a test case, right, you can say that this is a bad data. Okay, now we got the 2 ones printed, but the test case failed for the third iteration. The third iteration failed, saying that this is a bad data. So which is a exceptional case for you, negative case, because it's an empty. Or if somebody is sending you with a null, for example, with a null, if you're running this test case, this will also fail right now because you didn't handle it. It will fail with a null pointer exception. It will fail you with a null pointer exception. So better you handle it. Better, how will you handle it? You can say if string is null, string equal to null, or condition, or string value equal to empty, then you better say it's a bad data. Now you handle the exception as well. What is the negative case as well? Now if you go back and say this is a bad data, so which means this is a good solution according to you. Still you can improve it in the upcoming classes. Okay, with that said, we covered all the 10 different techniques and 9 super pro tips. Was it a good learning for all of you? Yes? Brilliant. I know for some of you in the last 15 minutes, you would have found it little faster. But don't worry. Look at the recording again after this weekend classes. After this weekend classes, go back and look at the recording. You will be able to grab them better and better for sure. Is that clear for all of you? Okay, did you all find it very useful? Yes? Okay. With that said, I'll stop right here. The recording is